Hey, Philip, just stay Philip, stay here just in case. Morning. So, we called SCAG yesterday to get the invoice.
Yeah.
And then we asked them what approach they want us to do. Right. If they just want us to, hopefully they'll get back to us today. I think more than likely it's going to be us, and I can make that phone call if you want. I'll just call each.
Yeah, I think we just call it once we're willing to Tony us the money.
Yeah, and then we're going to be the representative.
Right. Well,
we'll be the only air agency representing all the areas. So we'll get the invoice, and as soon as we
under that kind of.
Well, so we still need their approval. I don't know what SCAG is going to require of us to say, hey, they're okay with that. Is it a phone call or is it an action?
It's, well, from what staff told my staff, was that we notified them that we contacted them all, they were all okay with it.
Okay.
And then I'll find out if they got a what they do. Yeah, it's already in the bylaws. And which application or which committee did you want? You get to sit on one committee. There was 3 of them.
I'm currently on transportation. I gotta believe I probably need to switch over to environment. That's more.
Yeah, establish a special mention. But there's an additional there.
Give up that seat on transportation.
I think the reason why we specifically use exemptional variance release. It's the same variance.
The only reason why I'm trying to get this all taken care of, so you know, is that the seat I currently have, we're in the time of year where we always renew those. So my COG is saying, hey, are you still doing that? And my exec knows that I'm probably going to switch to seat. I'm like, well, not yet, because I don't want to give that one up until I know this will take care of it. That's one reason why I'm trying to play the chess game now and get it done.
Like I said, we called them yesterday to get an invoice from them, so.
Yeah, and I spoke with Arnold, my area representative, and he was going to look into the whole. And what was weird is I talked to his son on Tuesday, and he made it sound like, oh no, we fixed that too, so you don't have to ask everybody. I'm like, I don't think so. I thought that was still in the bylaws.
Staff told us.
It's in the bylaws.
Staff told us we have to go to all other.
That's what I thought.
Too early to tell it.
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yeah, I don't know what do you do? I think it's just a courtesy. Minimum is a courtesy to let them know that we're doing this.
Right.
I mean, they've never sat on it before, my understanding, so.
Well, no one thinks it was 25 grand. So that's why everyone was like, so, yeah.
But not for the 6 months earlier.
For at least these 3.
Morning, how you doing? Good. Especially since this morning the Wi-Fi wasn't working.
So this is the first generation.
Oh, then it's definitely fine. It's definitely fine. Yeah, I think it is. Well, maybe.
If it's not, I have a Wi-Fi. There's 5 people that
I've got my phone too. That's why I had to keep stepping outside, which I can get on one. Yeah, 14 minutes.
You want to Dr. Burke?
Yeah. Dr. Burkeneers? We can't hear you, but we're ready when you are.
Dr. Parker and I are having too good a time over here. So, we didn't know if we would let you guys into our meeting.
I want some of that food.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
I'm always wondering.
We're gonna get that kind of service.
Okay. Let's call to order the administrative committee meeting for October 14th, 2016. Are there any board member concerns?
No,
Nope.
I'm here.
Do we have any travel that we need to report?
Dr. Burke, I have out-of-country travel for staff. Do you want me to speak to that now?
Yes, please.
Sure. Dr. Tsopoulos has been invited by the Ontario, Canada section of the Air and Waste Management to talk on our advanced monitoring technologies. So he'll be speaking specifically to our work with optical remote sensing technologies and the low-cost air quality sensors. Alma will be picking up his travel expenses, and this is October 25th through the 27th.
May I get a motion on this? Oh, may I get a motion on the travel?
No motions necessary.
Oh, okay. Then, this is just a report?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then moving on to the regular agenda items. The board meeting schedule for 2017.
So the schedule is attached on page 3 of your packet, and that's just the proposed meeting dates for next year. As always, we are dark in August.
Does anyone have any problem with the schedule as it's in the packet?
None here.
Nope.
Okay, then that does take a motion.
Move approval?
Second.
Would the person who is responsible call the roll in the CCA?
Nancy, I believe.
Councilmember Benoit,
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Aye.
Dr. Parker,
Aye.
Dr. Burke.
Aye.
Motion
I can't see who's calling the roll. Who's calling the roll?
Nancy.
Oh, Nancy? Okay. You took
Stand up,
Sandra's
Nancy, take a
place?
bow.
Are you taking Sandra's place?
No.
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, Mike, you're up. Item number 7. At 6 and 7.
Thank you, Dr. Burke, members of the
Thank you.
committee. Item number, I missed that.
He said item 6 and 7 and 8 and 9.
I'll be quick, Dr. Burke, I get the message. Item number 6 is to transmit the annual report for the 457 deferred comp plan. Lets the board know the activities of the deferred comp plan committee. Also, we're requesting that the board appoint the new Assistant Deputy Executive Officer over Administration and Human Resources, John Olvera, to the committee. He would replace Bill Johnson, who retired back in the July timeframe. I'd be happy to answer any questions on the annual report.
Does anyone have any questions?
None here.
May I have a motion for,
Move approval?
I'll second.
Nancy, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Benoit,
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Aye.
Dr. Parker,
Aye.
Dr. Burke.
Can I think about it for a minute? Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay. Item number 7.
Thank you, Dr. Burke, committee members. This item simply establishes a special revenue fund to receive variance monies that were approved by the hearing board for the LEDWP as part of a hearing board variance. We've already received the $1.5 million from the first part of the variance, and there will potentially be some additional monies that due to a variance that was approved after this board letter was prepared. So this board letter will be revised to allow for some additional monies to be received as well. The original variance specified that the money be used for air filters and purchase of electric buses. Expenditure of these funds would come back to the committee and the board at a later date. Be happy to answer any questions.
Who made the decision on what this money was to be used for?
It's specified by the hearing.
Dr. Burke, this is Kurt. I don't know. who made that decision, but I will find out and get back to you.
Was it the hearing board?
Then we'll approve it when we find
I
out.
doubt that the hearing board did.
Okay.
Because I have a sneaking suspicion that this decision was made by the hearing board.
Dr. Burke, I think that's unlikely. The hearing board typically doesn't address penalty issues.
Well, look, we're talking about $1.5 million here, and the chief legal counsel doesn't know who authorized the expenditure. So I don't think that's appropriate.
Yeah.
You know, if it wasn't the hearing board, I know it didn't come before the board.
Would you hear Mike?
Teresa's gonna come down here, so I'm just gonna get her.
So, you know, we'll table this item until we find out what's going on.
We'll find out about
Item
4
number
minutes.
8.
We'll find out in about 2 minutes, Dr. Burke.
Great. Then we'll table it for 2 minutes. Item number 8.
Thank you, Dr. Burke. Before I go into the details of this board letter, I just want to make it clear, this board letter was written prior to the Friday board meeting. The staff understands the discussion and the direction that the board gave regarding IT review, audit, things of that nature. I just want to say this board letter here is not counter to that direction that the board provided. In fact, I think it continues to move us forward in that direction. So with that, I'll segue into the board letter itself. We're requesting a transfer of $450,000 so that we can execute 2 contracts that will provide automated workflow processes for permit processing and for online 400A form filing. So to be more specific, the $250,000 would be used to develop online permit processing workflow for gas stations, dry cleaners, spray booth. That's about 1,000 of those forms of registration, so it would automate about 1,000 out of the 7,000 or 8,000 quote-unquote permits that come into the district. This would be a 6-month process. The second item is a 400A form. There are probably at least 7,000 of those completed on an annual basis. This would automate that process. So you could file that form electronically as opposed to paper filing. So even though we're still evaluating the Bay Area system, it seems to be prudent to keep moving forward with these processes because we know they're going to work, and these are things that we can get done in about a 6-month time frame. And there are certain portions of this work that are valuable, even if the board were to decide to use the Bay Area system. Is part of this cost is going to document the business processes that currently exist, and that documentation is going to be necessary no matter which route the board decides to take. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any further questions on this item.
Let me understand what you said. We're going to spend $250,000 for the dry cleaners and gas stations, which is approximately 1,000 applicants. Is that what you just said?
Yes, Dr. Burke.
How much is that per applicant?
It's about $250, Dr. Burke, but that'd be in the first year. So I think if we were to, stretch out over 5 years, 10 years, plus what we do with this project, Dr. Burke, would obviously lead towards, this will be the building block for every other type of equipment that the district has. So this is really kind of laying the groundwork for fully automating all of these processes for all equipment types.
And this all falls under the ones
Okay.
we already approved for the permitting upgrade already.
Yes.
Okay.
What is the average permit cost that we charge, or we receive
So when I look,
for these
Dr.
specific areas?
I'm looking for Lockie here. I don't recall off the top of my head what the dry cleaners and gas stations.
These are typically at the lower end of the range that we charge, and I don't want to mislead the committee, maybe it's on the couple of $1,000s, but most of them do receive small business discount, which is at 50%, so it's much lower than that. But we can get you.
Much lower than 1,000? I'm sorry, Rocky.
2,000, it's 1,000.
And the 50% discount would bring it down to 500?
No,
It's 2,000.
yes.
Okay.
All right. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Move approval.
Second.
Nancy, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Benoit,
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Aye.
Dr. Parker,
Aye.
Dr. Burke.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Next item.
Thank you, Dr. Burke. This may be the last you hear of me here. Uh,
Go back.
Not literally.
No.
Yeah, not literally. This item requests approval to issue an RFP for the independent audit services that we have done on an annual basis. The current contract with Simpson & Simpson is up at the end of this year. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is there any questions by my colleagues?
None here.
Then I will accept a motion.
Move approval.
Move approval.
Second.
Nancy, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Benoit,
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Aye.
Dr. Parker,
Aye.
Dr. Burke.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Item number 10, Mr. Alatorre.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Dr. Burke and committee members. This item is to extend the contracts for our legislative representation in Washington. It's to extend it for 1 year. This is part of their contract that they have 2 one-year extension opportunities. This is to extend Kadish and Associates, Cassidy and Associates, and the Carmen Group. That's the staff. Staff recommends approval of this item.
When do their contracts run out?
So they're on their first year extension. So, I mean, technically their contracts run out in December, but if they get the extension, it goes through, the first extension goes through December of 2017, and then another extension, if they get it, will go through 2018.
I have no problem with this whatsoever, but it would seem to me that we'd want to see what the election results were before we extended these contracts.
Okay, so you want to hold it over?
No, I don't want you doing that. I'm just throwing it out there for my colleagues. You know, they may disagree with me.
So let me ask whether, do some of the firms, are they leaning Republican rather than Democrat, and do you have a combination, or how have we divided this up?
So I would say that Kadish leans more Democrat. Carmen Group is more Republican, and Cassidy is more in between.
So they kind of already represent different groups and
Okay.
groups.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
I'm
and
good.
we've been happy with them. I will say, you know, our trip to Washington, they did an excellent job for us. They're, you know, they have pretty good network in Washington, with the, on both sides of the aisle, with the representatives, with the members, and, so I think overall, we've been pretty happy with their performance.
And they work well together.
Okay,
That's
Mrs.
the other
Chairman,
thing, we work well
I'm
together.
good. If you're good, I'm good. I'll accept a motion.
Okay, I'll move to approve the item.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, and I get the Nancy to call the roll.
Councilmember Benoit,
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Aye.
Dr. Parker,
Aye.
Dr. Burke.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Next item on the agenda, Derek?
Okay. Dr. Burke, this next item is to extend the contracts for our Sacramento lobbyists, our Sacramento representation with Gonzalez, Quintana, and Hunter, and also Joe Gonzalez and Sons. This is actually their last of their one-year extensions. So next year, we would have to go out for an RFP for representation up in Sacramento. Staff recommends we do approve this item.
Good. Let me check with the chair of the legislative committee and see what her opinion is.
I would agree with that. Gonzalez and Sons is just sort of an institution in Sacramento. They're just terrific. And Gonzalez as well has done a really good job for us. I would continue with these for another year.
Dr. Parker?
I don't, I agree with everyone relative to Gonzalez. But my question is with Mr. Nastri. You had indicated that we were going to be discussing the expansion itself of our legislative representation in Sacramento at the ACMED meeting. And looking down here, where is that on the agenda? Is this what you were talking about in here? Or you?
Item 13, Dr. Parker.
Okay. Then I have no further questions.
Now, I personally think that once the election's over and once we find out if in fact there is a supermajority, we may want to consider a one-time 6-month or a year contract with an additional firm to handle the projects that we've been talking about in Sacramento. I'm not saying you have to do that, but I think that may in fact be something you want to consider. Anyway, can I get a motion on 11?
I'll move approval of the recommendation in item 11.
I'll second.
Nancy, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Benoit,
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Aye.
Dr. Parker,
Aye.
Dr. Burke,
Aye.
motion passes 4-0.
I don't think we need a discussion of 12. If I could just get a motion on 12,
Move approval.
Second.
would you call the roll, Nancy?
Councilmember Benoit,
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Aye.
Dr. Parker,
Aye.
Dr. Burke,
Yes.
motion passes 4-0.
Okay, 13, Mr. Alatorre.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Dr. Burke again. I think I've been talking more than Mike has today. This item is to authorize the executive officer to execute a contract with Double Nickel Advisors in an amount not to exceed $120,000. Double Nickel Advisors has unique capabilities and an understanding of the process in Sacramento. They will be providing strategic messaging, communication, and strategies as it relates to our communication to the legislature and to the governor's administration for purposes of garnering support for our AQMP and its required elements. Staff recommends approval of this item.
Any discussion of this item? Dr. Parker?
I do. I don't know the firm, and I read this. One of the concerns that I have is that whoever we retain really should sit down, kind of like a little roundtable discussion with members itself of the board, to give input directly to them as to how we believe, as a board, we want to be represented to the legislature as to why we need to do what we want to do. As an example, we were just mentioning before that we need to really be able to say to someone, as you know, I'm very sensitive to people who are economically disadvantaged, because that's what I've committed a lot of my own life and time and resources to doing. But we are talking about cleaning the air, and we know that where, in fact, these communities are the ones that are greatly affected more so than others. But that's also where a lot of the older cars are as well. And we can't help people if we don't have the incentives to be able to get them out of those old cars and into new ones. I had a gentleman who works for me, told me a story just maybe 3-4 days ago, and I didn't realize it. He said he lives in Long Beach. He had an old car, and at one time, he says there was a program that was available that told him that if that car could just be driven to the recycling center, they gave him $1,000 just to turn it in. so that he could actually use that money to get a new one. Those are incentive kind of programs. And those are in those neighborhoods and communities themselves that basically are affected by that. And I think this is what this money is for. And I think that's the kind of message that we need to be giving directly to our legislators, to say that this is why we need this money. Not just to basically say to people they're going to have to spend $50 more per car, but to help you in your constituents in some of these communities to be able to get out of those cars and get into newer cars and ones that are less pollutant, air pollutant. So that's why I think that we need to really be able to sit down and tell someone what these, how to go about and approach it. Yes, they may understand the legislative process. They may understand how bills go from one committee to that of another. But we may want to get a bus and get some people that'll go up and speak on our behalf in favor of this from these communities about the incentives. And unless people really understand what we do, I found too, in the last year, I'm going to hush and be quiet, that many of our legislators don't know that we have a lot of the programs. Dr. Burke and I went with Speaker Pro Tem Kevin De Leon, it was about maybe a year ago, 8-9 months ago, over in Boyle Heights. And we're telling them about all of the kind of programs, that they could get up to $8,000 or $9,000. And they brought this crusher in to show to people exactly how they crush the vehicles, et cetera. Now, at that meeting, we didn't talk about that. We gave people, X number of dollars in order to turn those old cars in. But I think that would be the answer itself relative to that of why we need $50. And it's not going to hurt people if we do that, if they get rid of those old cars, because they will be given some money directly for it, and we can use our money in that regard. So I wanted to say that, Mr. Nastri, but I think oftentimes we've had people to go and represent us, and they're not really representing what it is that we're trying to do and how we're trying to get our job itself done. Thank you very much for listening to me. So I didn't want to be long-winded, but I think that's very important.
Thank you, Dr.
I think that this firm would be more than happy to sit down and discuss this matter with the appropriate members of our board. I happen to agree with Dr. Parker that, sometimes those of us who did live in minority neighborhoods had some special experiences that we can share with those who are going to represent us in Sacramento. So I'm all for having them come in and chat with whoever on the board would like to sit down and talk to them. I accept a motion on this item.
I'll move the
I'll
item.
move the item.
Second then.
We have a motion and a second. Nancy, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Benoit,
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Aye.
Dr. Parker,
Aye.
Dr. Burke,
Aye.
motion passes 4-0.
Okay, item 14 is just a report, right? We received that report?
Yes, sir, Dr. Burke.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 15, Ms. Nakamura?
Ms. Nakamura is here.
I've grown.
Now you've changed.
Good morning, Dr. Burke and committee members. My name is Ian McMillan. Susan wasn't able to be here this morning. I'm a planning and rules manager here at the district. This RFP is to provide consultant assistance to the AB 2588 air toxic hotspots program. We're seeking assistance over a 4-year period to match the 4-year cycle of the AB 2588 program. As you all are aware, AB 2588 has undergone some significant changes in the past year and a half, most notably with the updated HRA guidance from OEHA. With these changes, we're expecting that there are going to be a substantial number of facilities that will come through this program that is not typical over this next 4-year period, and we're seeking assistance for consultants to help review some of these AB 2588 reports like health risk assessments, air toxic inventory reports, et cetera. It's our intention to develop a list of qualified contractors that can complete the tasks on an as-needed basis. It's my understanding that we actually did a very similar sort of contract back when AB 2588 first started, and we first had a wave of facilities come through this program. The total cost of this effort would be about $250,000 per year amongst all of the consultants, paid out of the Air Toxics Fund. This fund is a special fund that's the revenue that goes into this fund is directly from AB 2588 facilities, and the monies from this fund can only be spent on AB 2588 activities. So it's really designed for this kind of activity. There are sufficient funds in the Air Toxics Fund for this RFP. And with that, I'll ask if there are any questions.
Do my colleagues have any questions that relates to this item?
Nope.
None here.
Then I will accept a motion on this item.
I'll move the item.
Move the item. Second.
Nancy, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Benoit,
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Aye.
Dr. Parker,
Aye.
Dr. Burke.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, are there any questions on the November governing board agenda?
No, not here. Ben?
Not there, not here either. Is there any other business before the admin committee meeting this morning?
We have some more
How about
information
public
on-
comment at CCA?
We do have some more information on item 7.
Dr. Burke, you were right. Item number 7 did go to the hearing board. And in something that is very unusual in my experience, the hearing board did enter a mitigation fee into its order. But I'm very confident that they did so on stipulation of the parties to the hearing. So it was the district's
Well,
attorney.
wait a minute. One party is Department of Water and Power. I can't speak for them. The other party is the South Coast Air Quality Management District.
Dr. Burke, maybe I can.
Who agreed?
Dr. Burke, let me
Yes.
jump into this. When the staff was in discussions with the hearing board, I was kept apprised of where the status was. And it was my understanding that the desire for the LADWP and the idea that was presented to me as well was to mitigate emissions in those areas. And the idea that was presented was for the schools. And so in that sense, I had approved it. I had not taken into consideration that I needed to get board approval. That's a mistake that I will not repeat. I take full responsibility for this.
And Dr. Burke,
No problem.
yeah, just.
But you know, Kurt, you told me that you were sure that the hearing board didn't do it.
And I was mistaken. And Dr. Burke, I too will
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
do what's necessary to make sure that this situation doesn't recur.
Because there's no way in the world, I think, that my colleagues on the board want to transfer their authority in issues like this to the hearing board. I mean, I for one would be unalterably opposed to that. And I would assume that my colleagues would be fairly concerned about it themselves. So, you know, let's go back and consider that item.
We have to vote on it?
So,
Item number
Yeah.
six.
Well, let me just say that it was, because it was a stipulation, I think, you know, that's a different situation than when a hearing board just marches in and says, this is what the mitigation is. Here you had parties agreeing to it, although we didn't authorize our CEO to agree to it. But I also think it's probably a useful use of those funds. The funds are being spent where the impact occurred. And I know that many of our schools do need to convert over to electric buses, and there's funds are needed for that purpose. So I would approve the item based on those considerations.
Would someone like to make a motion?
I can't make a motion, I just argued for it.
I'll go ahead and make the motion, Mr. Chair, and I do agree that this is not something that I want to see in the future, though, because as I look at this, I wonder if that's the best use of that money without any other study, just, you know, but if it was LADWP that was agreeing to pay, but only if that was the option, then that makes some sense that it came forward that way. So I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Nancy, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Benoit,
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Aye.
Dr. Parker,
Aye.
Dr. Burke,
Aye.
motion passes 4-0.
Okay, is there any other business before the board? Any public comment in CCA? And there's none here.
None here, Dr. Burke.
So we will adjourn the admin committee meeting.
Now we're getting closer to newer natural gas. Bus and electric. Not a whole lot of Delta, not getting a whole lot of Vancouver. No, they're already probably natural gas. We've been how much we've been natural gas. Oh, yeah. No, diesel bus has been great.
School buses. Certainly
That's
not.
what it says.
I don't know.